What do you want, Dane? I shove his overly heavy arm from my shoulder and elbow him in the ribs to get him off me. I can't stand his lounging on me casually, like I am another one of his endless girlfriends. Can't I walk my sister into school without being accused of ulterior motives? He smirks down at me from his much taller height, too close for comfort, all bright white teeth, great bone structure, and gray eyes that seem to drive the hormonal teens here crazy. It grinds my eternal gears with irritation. For one, I am only your sister when you want something. 2, you always have a motive when you are being nice to me. Your rebellion is getting old and boring. It has been almost a decade, and you are still trying to disappoint him as punishment for marrying my mom. Grow up. Some of us moved on. I sneer, angrily fixing my clothes, and brush my blonde flyaway tendrils of hair back into my messy bun on the top of my head. What's the point in trying when he has my whole life mapped out anyway? My grades mean shit when my entire existence is set in stone and my future is to sit in a chair for a company I don't even care about. It's a sulky, sarcastic tone that drifts after me as he stops mid-walk. I carry on to get to class, casting him back a glance with a sigh, taking in the tall, athletic stance of a high schooler who met hormones earlier than most, mixed with the good bone structure. Great DNA and a resemblance to his mom. The jet black idle hair flops forward over one side again, framing his tan skin and great jawline with pale gray eyes. He does look like he should be on a teen girl magazine cover of Bad Boys You Want to Date, but shouldn't. The rumpled casual way he throws his uniform on, and somehow makes it look trendy, always irked me. Over his biker boots, which he wears religiously, and hints of tattoos he got purely to piss off his dad, peeking at every hint of skin on show. They match the hoops on one ear and the eyebrow and lip piercings, as he watches me with an almost scowling expression. His mind clearly on his dad. He looks like the kind of guy every father would steer their daughters away from. But his family name means somehow the rich and successful overlook his behavior and style and willingly let their kids date him. Many of them, sometimes all at the same time. He's completely shameless. Sounds like a you problem. I shrug it off and leave him with his fan group as they slowly start to swarm him. His best friend saunters past me, the same swaggering walk as Dane, with a wink as he heads his way and gets an eye roll in response. Another beefy hot boy, although that one isn't as pierced and inked as my brother. Tyler and Dane are those two kids every high school has. Hot, muscular jock types who pair up young and have this bromance where they do everything in sync and become legends for the less worthy. Sometimes even the same girls. Both are tall and self-confident and know they are hot and irresistible to certain types of girls. One is blondish and athletic with green eyes, and the other is dark-haired and stockier with gray eyes. Stereotypical bad behaviors and crappy attitudes, although Tyler at least has good grades and seems a little wiser and maturer than Dane. They are just two leaders of a sad little huddle of popular kids that sneer down their noses at all the lesser beings among us. As seniors, we are meant to be above all that, but his gang still pushes around the less fortunate at times and makes me despise everything about all of them. My life was great until his mom moved to London almost 6 months ago and insisted he stay here to finish school, which meant moving in with us. It sucks to be the sister of the school's popular bad boy when all I want to do is get through this with the best grades and acceptance to my chosen university. Keep my head down, focus on my future, and not get caught up in all the drama that comes from living under the same roof as Dane Masters. The overdramatic sigh from my left pulls my eyes towards the swooning figure of my best friend Elisa, stepping out towards me. My lithe and graceful beauty. She has the lovesick look of a teen girl who is smitten with an unattainable man. Her eyes follow her long-term crush Tyler after he passes me, and she seems to dissolve into sighs as I turn my head to her. When will he ever notice I exist? She mumbles, eyes still glued to her hunk from her down-tilted head angle as he walks to Dane, and the two stop to talk, aware of their coven ogling them. This is their morning routine of standing in the walkway as everyone arrives to get maximum ego boosting. Prime view for all their girls to view. Croon and praise them as we all make our way into school. When will you get a clue and give up on a guy who has been your classmate since kindergarten and still doesn't know your name? Tyler is as much of a loser as Dane. I tut at her, slide my arm in hers, and yank her with me to head to registry class. It's not that he doesn't know it. It's just he has never needed to use it. She always tries to make the same excuse and catches my death glare, quieting her protest. Exactly. Same class since you could barely walk, and he has never spoken one word to you. He has never even made eye contact with you. Get a new crush. One that sees you. You deserve better. I chastise her, pulling on the maternal frowny face. That's a replica of my mother scolding me, and Elisa sags as we walk. Her long auburn hair falls over her face and hides her black-rimmed glasses from view entirely. So all I get is a dainty chin and pouty lips. I can't just give up on my heart's one true desire I have harbored all these years. No one is as perfect as Tyler. One day, he will speak to me. She exhales heavily, her tone dreamy, and I sigh, only in exasperation. I eye-roll at this familiar line of conversation, knowing my friend is a romantic moron who has low self-esteem and could probably pull any guy she wanted if she stopped hiding in her hair and running away to hide in corners whenever anyone dared to talk to her. Elisa isn't ugly. She's pretty in her own natural way with pale, freckled, flawless skin and huge puppy brown eyes that are perfectly almond-shaped and framed with the darkest lashes for a redhead. She is a tall and slender creature with such a delicate bone structure. She has the most symmetrical face I have ever seen. If she stopped staring at her feet, others would also notice it. I always felt like she could be truly stunning if she tied her hair back, lifted her head, and started tailoring her clothes from baggy to fitted. She's your typical smart nerd girl who is awkward and pays no attention to clothes or her hair, and despite her love of cosmetics, never wears much. She is painfully shy and stutters when anyone who is not me talks to her, which is why no one does. She has glasses and braces, which don't take away from her beauty, but she is so self-conscious that she lets her bangs grow out so she can hide in a veil of soft red-brown all day long. So everyone thinks she is some weird recluse. If it wasn't for being my best friend since birth, I am sure she would have fallen victim to bullying years ago. But I'm too vocal and strong-willed for that BS, and being class president means no one looks at me the wrong way either. My dad donates so much money to this school that no one would ever dare annoy me. And of course, asshole Dane, no one would pick on his sister if they wanted to stay alive. Come on! I drag her along, putting speed into our steps as I catch sight of the wall clock inside the glass wall front entrance to our high school. I want to get in early and set up for first class. It's presentation day. I smile to myself, confident in my work and research for this subject. Sure, I will get top marks like I always do. I spent the last week cramming like a maniac, double-checking, working hard, and crossing all my T's. Dane may be hopping on for credit. But I know I am the reason our group will get an A in this, and that loser will only fail in some other way. It's inevitable. I don't want to talk. Can you do it? Elisa is already freaking out about something she knows I will do anyway. The girl is sometimes overly anxious and uptight when she should know. As her appointed best friend, I would never let her suffer. Of course, I know the drill. I'll do the talk if you switch up the slides, and Denny can deal with the model and props. Rosianna can stand with you at the projector laptop and help. I already have it all planned out, and if that idiot brother of mine is implying he joined our group, he can stand at the side and do what he does best. Far away from me. Distract half the low IQ big busted girls in the class so they don't ask stupid questions, yawn, and eye roll, and make out like we are somehow ruining their day. K. You're the best, koala bear. Elisa gives me an arm squeeze and rests her head on my shoulder, so her shield of hair falls over her face entirely, and relies on me to guide her way. My girl is a beauty product genius who makes her own, and always comes up with the best-smelling stuff. She smells like coconuts and mango today, and I turn and sniff her shampoo with appreciation. This smells new and possibly Elisa made. We bonded over science as little kids. What with her love of making potions and lotions, and my dream of becoming an animal doctor. Her mission in life is to create animal cruelty-free and vegan brands as organic as possible, and with locally sourced ingredients. New shampoo? I ask in curiosity, dodging a teacher as we turn in the hall, and we both nod a good morning in passing. The sun beams in the massive wall of glass that covers half the school as it hits higher in the sky, making us squint until the automatic tinted windows kick in and blur out some of it. We head to the science department on the ground floor to offload our bags. A perk of attending the state's most exclusive and expensive school means we have no shortage of tech and gadgets. A low student population of those whose parents can afford it, and a high number of qualified teachers. I brought you a bottle too. It's great for highlighted blonde hair like yours. I added extra moisturizing properties to combat this Florida sun. Elisa lets go of me as we stop outside the automatic doors of the science rooms, brightened with a mix of artificial and natural light, given the entire downstairs has glass walls between all classes. She follows me. Inside. Awesome. Come on, champ. Let's get to work and knock this out of the park. Where is he? I told him to be here for 6, and it's 20 past. He always has to defy everything we ask of him. My mom snaps, slamming her fork down on the table by her plate, making everything rattle despite being solid oak, and everyone sits tensely as her voice echoes around the giant dining room. I am so sick of this. My mom's shoulder-length blonde, highlighted hair falls gracefully over her right eye, so she flicks it back with manicured nails. She still looks like a woman in her young 30s and not her mid-40s. Barely has a wrinkle or blemish on her delicate face. Her cheekbones are rosier than normal, even on her sallow skin, and I watch my mom's beauty and elegance with awe. Impressed by it even when she's pissed off. Elisa withdraws further into her hair, so her fork seems to be delivering food into a veil, where food disappears. And my stepfather sighs at the head of the table and checks his watch for the 5th time. It's only the 4 of us as we wait for Dane. Supposed to be a cozy small celebration, yet this room suddenly feels crazily claustrophobic. Even though our table seats 8. Mom. Ignore it and eat. It's Brian's birthday dinner. Dane will show up. You know he will. Late because it's what he does, but he will still come home. I try to soothe her with soft words and some logic, but we all know Dane will show up when he feels like it. Regardless of the date. He does this to annoy you, and it's working. Anytime she gives him a set time, he ignores it. I sigh and push my food around, hating that he has ruined yet another family meal. The food is really good, Mrs. Masterson. You should eat it before it gets cold. Elise pipes up shyly, her sweet voice coming out from the hunched-up figure, as she aids in smoothing my mom's ruffled feathers. She's been an extension of our family for years, as she lives 2 houses away, and practically grew up with me since I moved in here. My mom loves having her around, and always invites her to family-related events. I think she felt Elisa was a sibling I needed, because I was an only child, and Dane hated coming here for visitation. So he would dodge it. Honey, it's fine. He'll show up when he's hungry, and I told you I didn't need anything special today. I'm happy to spend time with my family at any time. It's just another year of reminding me I am old. My stepfather gives Mom a tight smile, trying for light-hearted warmth. But her grip on her water glass tightens, and she sits up straight. Tenser. Brian is nothing like his son. He's handsome in that mature guy kind of a way and fit, because my mom is a stickler for health. He compliments my mom with their good looks. The typical Florida, wealthy, good-looking couple, where Dane is tanned with pale eyes and black hair, Brian is pale naturally, a little freckled in places with light brown hair and smiley hazel eyes. Dane's all angles and smoldering gazes, while Brian's happy face always seems approachable. The only thing Dane seemed to get from his DNA was their height, tall and stocky, as though they were meant for the sports field. She furrows her already frowning brow further. Her happy mood of a half hour ago has been dying by the second. I'm so tired of dealing with this. Anything I say, he ignores. Anything I do, he throws back in my face. What am I supposed to do with him? She exhales heavily, eyes misting over as though this is the worst stress of her life. And sometimes I don't get why she tries so hard. She wouldn't always be at his throat if she let him be and didn't demand anything. She can't change him. Since he moved in, it's like she tries so hard to be his mother, whereas before, she didn't give him the time of day. Stop expecting. It only sets you up for disappointment. You know how he feels. Brian reaches out his hand and covers the one beside my mother's discarded fork, squeezing her, and I try to focus on my food. The steak is getting cold as I am picking at it, but I have no appetite thanks to the tension of the atmosphere, once again caused by Dane. There's a clatter out in the main hall that sounds like the front door swinging shut, and then minor scuffing and the squeak of boots on the marble floor. Low voices follow it, and I stiffen, knowing what's coming. It sounds like Dane brought Tyler with him, and my mom is already in the worst mood over his being late. Even though she asked Elisa, she never asked any of Dane's friends. She never does. Listen, honey. He's here. Relax, eat. Let's enjoy this. Let it go and have a nice dinner for once. Brian lets her go and sits back to pick up his cutlery again, but my mother does not move. I catch her in the corner of my eye, pushing her shoulders back and raising her chin, and I inwardly deflate. Mom is moving into battle mode, and I know she will go off at him when he comes in here. Sorry, we're late, Mr. and Mrs. Masterson. We had a delay with school things, Tyler mumbles, coming in first, looking sheepish and giving a quick head bow in apology as he eyes up the table and tries to figure out where to sit. He's still in the uniform of earlier and looks more wrinkled than when we left school a couple of hours ago. God knows where they have been, or what they have been doing. School things. My ass. Seeing only one place set, he turns to the side and gives Dane a glaring look as he strolls in casually beside him. It looks like Dane told him he was invited when my mother never agreed. Dane shrugs back and smirks, that wicked gleam in his eye that he knows this will be something else to piss my mom off. Yeah. Saws. We had stuff going on. I'm starving. Smells good. Dane walks up, eyes up the vacant seat next to me that sits between his father and me in the place setting clearly for him. Then at Elisa beside my mother on the opposite side. He seems to do a mental calculation as to where he should put Tyler. Monique, can you set another place please? Brian calls out to the housekeeper, who is never far from earshot, and motions towards Tyler with a polite finger wave. Gesturing towards the seat facing Elisa, right beside me on the other side. The more, the merrier. Nice to see you again, Tyler. Brian has always been a polite, calm peacekeeper who never gets riled at anything his son does. Not the tattoos, the piercings, the motorbike. The times he has had to bail him out of the sheriff's office, and hate for something that happened 10 years ago. He was not the only kid who had their family ripped apart. Dane ushers Tyler to the seat before sauntering on past behind me and hauls out the chair to plank himself heavily down. He exudes this overly confident and casual vibe no matter what he's doing, and that alone makes me grit my teeth. Nothing ever gets through that outer, who cares attitude. He pulls his glass towards him, takes a sip, and then peruses the table with a lazy glance, seemingly unimpressed with us all. Are you not going to wish your father a happy birthday? And so, it begins. I hate conflict like this, My mom doesn't even give him a second to settle. Tension crackling in the air around her with her snappy tone, and the steak in my mouth suddenly feels like I'm chewing ash, churning up my stomach as my nerves tighten. And for once, I wish my mom would leave it alone. Yeah. Happy getting older. Power to you, Dane, smirks his dad's way, with no sincerity, and Brian nods with a half smile as if to say thank you. Dane waits until he sees Tyler being served food before he starts to dig in, obviously done with his well wishes. I shake my head at his lack of effort, praying my mom lets it go and stuff food in my mouth to curb the need to call him an asshole. Can't you do something properly and respectfully for once? I sigh inwardly at her voice. My mom could never back down and let it go where he's concerned. Just had to bite. He's your father. Don't you have a gift? Something more meaningful to say? She sits rigid, facing him and not moving to pick up her cutlery as the rest of us have. Bringing the black cloud firmly over our heads, I know there's no rescuing this now. She's only getting warmed up, and Dane will only get riled. Honey. Leave it. Let's just... Brian interjects but is immediately cut off. The gift is my presence. You want me to say something heartfelt. I'm not sure you would like what I have to say. Dane snorts and doesn't look her way but leans in and stuffs food in his mouth, unfazed by the audience, the bad atmosphere. Or the way my mother is scowling like he's a demon child sent from hell to make her life miserable. He chews loudly. No. Please. Let's hear it. I really want to know what you have to say to your father on his birthday. My mother snaps. Tone frosty and eyes glued to Dane, waiting with bated breath for your words of wisdom at the ripe old age of 17. My food becomes a lump in my throat, and I stare down at my lap to count to 10, so I keep my mouth shut. Anger is growing, and that inner ache of utter contempt that I carry with me whenever I share airspace with this idiot. I curse the day he moved in here, and made this my everyday life. The past 6 months have felt like 6 years. I am also mortified that my mom is doing this in front of Tyler and Elisa when she doesn't even know Tyler at all. That Dane is being this shitty once more. My mom is normally a stable and warm person who has been my rock my whole life, but he brings out the absolute worst in her. I never thought my mom could hate a person, given she's a doctor, and people love her. Yet Dane is the exception. From the second he walked in here with cases in tow, they have butted heads. Maybe I should go and take on. Tyler interrupts and glances across at Elisa, who has further sunk into her hair because she is awful with drama. Cousin it with me. He frowns, seemingly confused about her name, or maybe even her identity, and I glare at him with a snapping head turn. Her name is Elisa. Don't be a jerk. I huff at him, incensed at the Addams family reference. Dane snort laughs under his breath at Tyler's insult to my friend. So the impulse to use my fork to stab him in the leg becomes almost unbearable. It's fine. Eat. We will be going soon as we're done. Dane waves at him to pick his cutlery back up, uncaring about this train wreck atmosphere or my mom's sarcasm. And my mom explodes like a time bomb that's been ticking away since he walked in the door. Why are you like this? Why do you always make things this way? Do you enjoy seeing me angry and causing all of this? I have tried to include you ever since I brought you into my home, and her voice raises higher with every word. Your home. Dane's head snaps up, cutting her off with a violent response which is new for him. As he meets her focus head-on, his face falls from that smug and casual look he always wears to instant anger and despisal. Energy vibrates around him that feels like aggressive hostility, and it has the power to make me go quiet. He's normally full of smart-ass responses and smirks, not outright yelling venom. This was my home, long before it was yours. My mom's home before my father found his way into your bed. Don't you fucking dare sit there and act like you're doing me any fucking favors by having me come back to my own home. I have more right to be here than you. His voice rasps and the tone stays loud and threatening. Dane, Enough. Brian slams his hand on the table even though his voice is calm and level, and we all jump in fright at the sudden bang. I drop my fork on the floor and tense hard, so I end up sitting stiffly and gripping the edge of my seat. Me? Maybe tell your wife to stop always looking for a reason to pick fights. Did I ask to come here? No. Did I want to be forced home for dinner to pretend we all get along and play happy fucking families? No, I did not. Maybe if you all butted out of my life and left me alone to get through the remainder of school, we wouldn't have this bullshit every fucking day. As he stands up, Dane scrapes his chair back with rage, banging the table with his fist and disrupting all the water glasses. Sit down, stop swearing. This is not how I raised you to handle disputes. Brian is trying and failing to cage his fiery son like always. The rest of us are sitting staring at our hands with clamped shut mouths, except my mom, who is openly glaring and shaking her head at the stepson she never wanted to deal with. Don't make me laugh. You didn't raise me. Mom did. 10 years on her own while you were over here playing daddy to little Miss Straight A's over here. Don't start acting like a father now. I've had enough and know from experience that this is only starting to heat up. They will rage and row while he sasses them, and it will turn nastier once tempers fully kick in. My mom doesn't know how to back down, and Dane is not the type to storm out of a fight. He takes it head on and has to have the last word. Brian won't diffuse anything, and as usual, I will end up in my room listening to it for the next hour. I don't need an audience for that. Mom, I'm taking them to the door, and I'll eat when this is done. It's my turn to butt in, sliding back my chair, heart hammering in my chest like a war drum, embarrassed to the core over this showdown. Elisa, come on. I get up, gesturing to her, and then shove Tyler on the shoulder. You too. I slide past him to walk them out, keeping my expression blank and holding back the tears that start swirling down in my stomach. Right now, I want to talk to my dad more than ever, because living here has become so shitty, I would even consider staying with him for a little while in New York. Even if he works all day, and I only got to see him on weekends, and was alone in his apartment most of the time. It's got to be better than this day in and out. I'm sick of this, every time we are all in one place. I don't need this stress in my life, or I'll end up with a stomach ulcer. I know the way. I'll take him, go get your food and go upstairs. When you don't eat, you get faint, your blood sugar. Elisa rubs my arm as she moves close to whisper at me as we march out of the dining room and head for the hall without looking back. She is trying to be my little emotional support, and I love her for it. She knows how things are. The three behind us at least have the grace to remain quiet while we leave, but I know it's short-lived. I can almost taste the static in the air, and the tension is so thick I can practically see it. A storm is poised for the crescendo. It's okay. I need air, and we'll walk you home, Tyler, if you say a word to anyone. I start to warn him as we slide out of the room and close the door behind me, keeping my voice hushed and wave a pointer finger at his tall frame. Cool it. Okay. He is my best friend. Not a word will come from me. He lifts his hand and crosses his fingers, making a juvenile promise before turning on his heel to walk ahead of us to leave. Laters. I kick rocks on the road, mood simmering and feeling listless as I make my way back up the huge curved drive to our house after walking Elisa home. It's getting dark because I hung out at hers for a while to pass the time and give my so-called family a chance to get over their current fight. Elisa made me dinner, and we avoided all talk of earlier, seeing as it was not the first time. I'm tired and looking to go to my room to catch up on study notes before bed. I have a test tomorrow in English Lit. As I round the bend, obscured by the bushes of our manicured garden, I catch sight of Dane coming this way. Hands shoved in the pockets of his jeans, head down and kicking at debris the same way I am as he walks. He's changed from his school clothes into that rumpled, badass casual he prefers. Light ripped jeans, a white tee under an open check shirt with graffiti embroidery across a shoulder and one side. His hair is freshly ruffled, and he's sporting all the metal he usually wears in his face and ear, so it shines in the light. I always hated how his eyebrow bar and lip ring suited his face and transformed him from a good-looking teen into something older and sinister. He used to be a clean-cut, cute boy. And now he looks like a gang thug, dragging his steps and sighing as he watches the ground ahead of him. He seems deflated with a blank expression. Just the mere sight of him annoys me, and I exhale sharply, pull up my chin, and speed up my pace to get by him as fast as possible. He glances up at the scuff of gravel under my sneakers, sees me under that floppy side bang he has going on, and sighs harder, turning his head to the opposing side with a look of, "This is all I need." It makes me grit my teeth. He shifts from walking centrally towards me to meandering 2 or 3 paces to the right, with a veer as he gets closer, making it clear he has nothing to say. Asshole. I murmur under my breath as I pass him by with a good 5-foot gap now, focusing on the house's lights ahead. I keep my pace and posture brisk and avoid looking at him. What? If you have something to say, don't be shy. Didn't take you for a coward who mumbles. He snaps at me, temper riled from whatever happened in my absence, and pushes my kill switch too. I called you an asshole because you are, always making problems where none were needed. I'm sick of your drama. I spin on him, fury unleashed with such little encouragement because it's always brimming under the surface when related to him. I'm tired and anxious because my mom will be in a sour mood, making me irritable. As it's down to him, he deserves my rage. You need to grow up and stop acting like a spoiled brat. It was your dad's birthday dinner. It's not like they ask for anything else except your presence and a little respect. You're so selfish. Give me a break. Maybe your mom needs to get off my back and stop her shit. You always side with her and never step back and think maybe it's not always me. You're so brainwashed. He spits back, and even though I intended to go home and not do this, there is something about Dane that always pulls me to this. I can't ever let it go. I guess this is how my mom feels. Why? No matter what, she bites. He always has a smart-ass response and shirks blame. Why should she? You treat her like trash. It is always you. You moved in with us, are fed and clothed by them, handed cash without question, and get away with near murder. And yet you act like you are so hard done by. You're spoiled and rude, and my mom should kick you out. See how you fare on your own. We have ended up face to face, his towering height not fazing me, and I lift my chin to meet his glare. Whatever. Look, I'm not in the mood. Go inside and read a textbook or something. Count your good girl certificates. You make your mom Sue proud. Dane shrugs off my words, his brows knitting together, shakes his head, and pastes a frown on that pretty boy face before moving to leave. But this whole dismissive crap and the constant put downs he throws my way notches up my temper a gear further. I hate him. I hate how he wastes his life and causes drama constantly, and whenever confronted, acts like this. You are not the only one. You know who got hurt, who lost their family, and everything was uprooted. I was the other kid. My home was pulled apart too. Our parents did this to both of us. Do you ever think about that? My voice is tense, and emotion tints it, so I sound huskier as tears mist my eyes with the sheer frustration. This boy causes me. At least your parents stayed in the same county for the past decade, and you could see them any time. It was your choice to spend the bare minimum here. My dad moved his entire business to New York, so he wouldn't have to witness my mom happy in her new life. I hardly see him, and I got no say in that. Dane stops mid-walk, tilts his head back, and stares skyward before exhaling so heavily, like I'm the most annoying thing on the planet. He murmurs under his breath, and then turns his head my way. Bye, Kayla. I'm done. I'm not talking about this. Same record, different day. Good night. He moves off, walking at the same slow pace, raising a hand casually, and gestures for me to go away at the side of his head, his back to me again. Emotion swirls up in my throat, my fiery side taking grip, and I stalk after him. Something deep inside gripping this insane, need to shake some sense into this moron. You're selfish and arrogant and act like this tough bad boy who hates his dad. But if you really didn't want to be here, you would have gone to London. Why piggyback my grades, huh? Surely an out to leave was the best you could have asked for. I stomp at his heels, catching the back of his shirt, and tug him to a halt with a vicious yank. My voice trembling with the sheer anger I am trying to hold in. Dane stops so abruptly that I walk into the back of him with an oomph noise, bang my forehead on his spine, and stumble back, rubbing my face. Why are you following me? You are like a chihuahua, chewing on my leg. Go away, mosquito. He turns, pushing his 2 forefingers into the center of my forehead, and nudges me back with a gentle prod, making me bend backward, and I slap it away hard. If you hated your dad as much as you say you do, you would be long gone. I don't think you do. I think you want to be here and act like this, so he spends all his time and attention dealing with your bull. You're just an angry little boy who can't forgive him yet, still wants his love. Gimme a break. What are you, a shrink like your mom now, trying to psychoanalyze me? He laughs at me, a breathy bro chuckle, and shakes his head as though I'm hilarious. Still infuriating with his hands in his pocket pose and casual lounge. Newsflash. She sucks at her job, and your mini-me attempt is as sad as she is. You don't know anything. Yes, I do. And don't talk about my mom like that. She's an amazing doctor and does it well. She tries hard to make this work. You just, no. She doesn't. You're as deluded as she is if you see how she is and think that is her trying to make this work. Dane yanks his shirt from my hand, where I was unaware I was still gripping it, and steps away from me. I had enough of this shit in there, and don't have the energy for round 2. Go away. Leave me alone. I'm sure you have a biology essay calling for you. I have a date, and I'm late, thanks to your mom, so back off, virgin. Dane's tone is forceful with a tint of exasperation, and I know we are going round in circles. This is not the first time we have had this argument in the past months, and it turns out the same every time he walks off. Insults me, evades it. You're a loser who is so caught up in resentment that you're ruining your own life. It's my last-ditch attempt to wound him, and before I storm off, his laugh cuts into the growing tension as he turns towards me, but continues to walk backward. What about you, Little Miss Perfect, straight A's class president, leader of so many mind-numbing after-school clubs, charity volunteer, and stray animal savior? Never give your mom a reason to complain and do everything she tells you to, like a good little puppet. Ever ask yourself why you have to be so perfect? Could it be because you're afraid she'll get tired of you, like she did your dad, and up and leave you? His words cut into my chest like a knife, winding me and pushing my eyes to mist over. He's always known how to twist the knife in my soul. You don't know me. None of that is accurate. There's nothing wrong with being a good kid and doing well. I want to be something with my life and not waste it the way you are. My voice trembles and my breathing gets raspy, hating him for touching a nerve even if it's not entirely accurate. There is when it's become an obsessive compulsion from fear of your mom no longer loving you. Try failing something and experiencing the panic it causes you. We're both screwed up, Kayla. You're in no position to lecture me. You know nothing. You are an idiot. I have no words to come back at him, incensed at the nerve of this jerk, thinking my need to succeed in life is some sad scar inflicted by my parents' divorce. I'm not him, so caught up in old hurts that I let them rule my life. He's so stupid. I can't argue with it, insult him, think of a sassy response to shut him up, and instead try to brush it off the way I do his insults by not rising to them. Carry on living in denial and your boring day-to-day good girl existence. I'll continue enjoying my youth. He smirks, dismissing me. The fact you are walking tells me my mom took your bike again. Don't come crying to me tomorrow for a loan of my car again. I won't give it to you. And you better call Tyler for rides to and from school, because I'm not your chauffeur. I sneer at him, knowing it's the only punishment my mom can ever exact that my stepdad will support. They take his bike keys and helmets for a few days to try and teach him the consequences of his crappy attitude. He's always soft on him and holds my mom back when, maybe, if he let her rip at him once in a while, he might grow up. Whatever. Look, butt out of my business. Okay, we may live in the same house, and our parents may be married, but you are nothing to me but an annoying girl who should stick in her own lane, concentrate on your own life, and get out of mine. I want to scream at him. My skin prickles and my heart is pounding through my rib cage, so my breathing is labored while he acts cool as a cucumber. Every word out of that arrogant mouth somehow makes me always want to have the last say, to shut him up, close him down. He's so self-absorbed. You think it's that easy? Do you even know what the past 10 years were like? Being questioned every day after school to check in on you? How you were, who your friends were? Your grades. Were you happy? You may have avoided your dad, but I became the source of information that kept him sane because I got to see you every day at school. I don't want to be in your life, but it's been about you since the day they got married. I glare hatefully. He loves you and tries, but you aren't worthy. I stamp my foot. I so want to be nothing in your life, but you're a curse I can never get rid of. Feelings mutual. Virgin. Go home. He salutes me with a mock military sign, a smirk, and a chuckle as though all of this is highly amusing, even though I'm panting like I ran a marathon, holding back a mix of fury and tears born of frustration. I don't know how he always affects me this way. The flash of car headlights rounds the end of the drive and illuminates the dark area behind him, indicating his date is here. And I scowl further as he glances their way and waves a 2-minute signal. I catch a glimpse of a shadowy figure, but I can't tell who she is. Why are you cooking? Dane startles me from behind as he walks in, dumping his school bag on the breakfast island, and looks me up and down with a slight arrogance. It makes me bristle all over, given it's the first thing he has said to me in 2 days, and it's not exactly a pleasant tone. Dressed in his uniform still, be it rumpled and untucked like always. I guess he was at Tyler's until now as school got out 2 hours ago. Mom and Dad are out, and Monique has a headache, so I told her I would make us dinner. I answer flatly ignoring him, and continue turning the meatballs for the pasta. Can you even cook? He sneers, walks up, and leans over my shoulder to stare at what I am doing, getting a little too near for comfort, so his body heat envelopes me from behind, and I elbow him back. Suffocated by his presence, especially when he smells like he is freshly showered and has a new dose of aftershave on. For a guy who rarely irons his clothes, he always smells good. And it's annoying. I don't even want to know why he showered after school yet returned in the same clothes. I've been cooking for myself for years. Do you think Monique works 24/7 in a house with 2 working parents? I sometimes fend for myself. I shove him further away with a palm to his abs so I can move past and pick up the salt and pepper canisters on the next counter. Get out of the way until it's ready. He's making me feel hemmed in and touchy. I'm already in a weird mood and don't need him to stoke the fire. I don't like it. Dane noses over my head at the pot, and I turn glancing from the pasta to him and narrow my eyes. What do you mean you don't like it? You've eaten this any time Monique makes it. That's why I chose to make this. You always eat it. My voice pitches as anger bubbles. And I know I'm falling for his baiting, but sometimes I cannot stop myself. Dane is like a wound under a Band-Aid where you always have to pull it off and pick at it. Dane picks up an apple from the center island and takes a loud, crunchy bite. Resting his butt against the edge and lounging casually, with that undeniable signature smirk showing face. He is facing me and spreading his feet, so he's not as tall. That's because Monique made it, not you. He grins and raises a brow at me before dodging back away from my slap swipe at him, enraging me because he can, and so effortlessly has me in stabby mode. Starve then. I don't care. I won't bother doing anything nice for you ever again. I huff and return to what I am doing, sprinkling the seasoning before stirring the sauce pot and tasting it to check. I pause and glance around as he strolls to the refrigerator and retrieves a bottle of water before walking back to the bar and pulling out a stool. He slides in and nestles himself while propping his feet up and under and resting his chin on his palm on one elbow. I guess he's decided to stay here and eat after all. Dane quietly pulls over his bag and empties a random assortment of books, his cell phone, and general school stuff before picking up a comic and flicking through it. It looks old and worn like he's had it for years, and I vaguely remember the cover. Sitting like that, looking like a rock star teen boy, with something so juvenile in his hand in a cute pose from our younger days when I didn't despise him so much. I get an inkling of something weird and warm in my stomach, and ton fast to shake the image out of my head. Why are you talking to me anyway? I thought you said I was to stay away and leave you alone. I snort at him, annoyed because he dared to breathe my air and get in my space, making me feel antsy and irritated. I'm not talking to you, I'm reading. He answers with an empty tone and doesn't pull away from his book pages. He misses my frowning a glare aimed his way, too busy leaning in and eyeing the pages. Hardly reading. Don't you own any proper books? I scoff, flick off the frying pan ring, and tip the meatballs into the sauce. The pasta is already rinsed and waiting to be served. I do so quickly and dump it out onto 2 plates. Dane ignores me, and when I walk over and slide his plate towards him, he lifts his arms to take his reading material out of the way. Face still engaged with it, and I push it under, stopping to stare at him for a second and hating his lack of interaction. I hope you choke on it. I shove his shoulder before turning on my heel and leaving him to it. I sit opposite him and slide myself from the table to where I am sitting, staring at the top of Dane's head because he eats while flipping through his comic and blanks me. Fork to mouth automatically without lifting his eyes from the pages, and I am suddenly non-existent in his world. My eyes stray to what has him captivated, noticing old scribbles on the edges. Even the inside of his magazine looks old, and I wonder if he found it recently and is reading it for nostalgia. There is something vaguely familiar about it, but I cannot figure out why. I haven't seen him with a comic for years. I thought you stopped reading those when you were, 10. I nose nod at the manga and get zero response. He stuffs a mouthful of pasta and uses his other hand to turn the page, not bothering to acknowledge a presence. No thanks for making him food, and it's obvious I am getting zero conversation now too. Whatever has been eating him the last 2 days is still brewing. And I am being frozen out. Asshole. Whatever. I snort sulkily and push my fork into my mouth, chewing what should be a favorite meal for both of us. Yet it tastes like ash. I have no appetite today. There's nothing wrong with my skill in cooking, but just my mood, and he has helped it get worse. I don't know why I care. I have left my dad a dozen messages in the last couple of days, and he's not responding. He does this whenever holidays come up, even though I know it. It still hurts. I can't help myself. There's a part of me that cannot give up on reaching out to him and trying to keep our relationship alive. When I was little, my father made me feel like I was the center of his universe, but the second they divorced, I became baggage. No matter how often I tell myself to let it go and stop chasing him, I just can't. I pick up my cell and open my messenger app, seeing all are still unread. Even though the last one I sent over an hour ago, my father uses his cell for business. so there's no way he's not seeing them and knowing I am trying to get hold of him. He has one phone. I hit dial instead and put my phone to my ear, holding my fork midair and staring pensively at Dane. My eyes naturally stray that way when he's facing me, but somehow, his presence gives me courage. The atmosphere is thick with static around us as I listen to the endless ringing, and my heart deflates and withers my chest. Dane glances up at me for a second, frowns at seeing me on my cell with eyes locked on his head, and goes back to eating and reading simultaneously with no visible reaction. He obviously felt my gaze. Like every call this week, my dad's cell rings out and eventually goes to voicemail. I had avoided leaving one, as it's harder to conceal my disappointment that way. But I have had enough. He has no idea how much of a wound this inflicts when he dodges me and won't outright tell me he doesn't want to see me. It's always an excuse of how busy he is, even though I fly there, get myself to his apartment, and do everything for him. I learned to cook for that exact reason. Maybe my heart would stop clinging on if he were honest, and told me he didn't want me to keep looking for him. Dad, can you please reply to me or call me back? It feels like I haven't heard from you in weeks, and I'm worried about your lack of response. Please, Daddy. We have a break coming up in school, and I wanted to see you. Call me back. I hang up and stare at my cell for a moment, a lump lodging in my throat as emotions rise to make my chest ache, and then face it down on the table and calm myself with a deep breath, trying not to let this get to me, or show my broken disappointment. I realize Dane isn't continuing the motion of lifting his fork or turning pages, and I glance up to see him watching me silently. His eyes dart away, and he drops his head back to his previous focus when he sees I noticed, but doesn't say a word. He acts like he didn't hear me, even though I know he has before, and flicks to the next page. It embarrasses me that he sees it so clearly, and silently judges me, probably calling me pathetic and a loser in his head. What does he know? He has never had to deal with this because his mum begs him to visit as often as possible. Are you going to see your mom in London this break? I asked to deflect the focus from my call, making out it was just a casual call and not my sad stalking of my own father. I'm humiliated that I almost begged in front of him and get a shrug in response. Not even eye contact. It riles that inner anger only Dane can trigger, and my stomach tightens in frustration. Are you really going to be like this? This ignorance, even when sitting at dinner together. This is stupid, Dane, and immature. Dane sits up straight, locks his gaze back on me, sniffs, picks up his water bottle to take a drink, and then goes back to what he's doing, making a good go of clearing his plate without complaint, even though he criticized my cooking. It's a very big leave me alone move that he does so very well, and I swear, for once in my life, I wish it wouldn't kill him to be a little bit nice to me. Can't he see I need someone to care right now? Even if it's him, this weirdness since we had our argument on the drive is driving me crazy. In this house, which isn't all that huge, he acts as though we don't walk right past one another. He actively blanks me here, at school, or outright avoids me. At first, I thought he was sulking and it would pass. But now, after 2 whole days of this, I want to punch him in the throat and smack him about his dumb head for being like this. It's been irritating me and making me mad as hell, and now sitting facing him, he's still acting like a prized asshole. He has no shame. When he still doesn't look at me or answer, I lean forward and forcibly slam the pages shut of the damned comic he uses to ignore me and slap my hand on top of it, almost trapping his hand if he hadn't moved it last second to reach for his water. Dane doesn't flinch or react. Stop being a jerk. Say something, anything. Even if it's some shitty remark about chasing after my father and acting like that. I hate this. I spit at him angrily, disrupting my bowl and spilling my glass of water on the side of my plate. But I don't care. My dad and Dane combined have made me feel like shit these past 2 days, like I am invisible and worthless, and I want to scream at his stupid head. All the bubbling internal frustration and angst needs an outlet, and with him acting this way, I am aiming it at him. Dane leans back and fixes his pale gray gaze on me in an expressionless stare while sighing out air like I am an irritating problem. He picks up his water and takes a long, slow drink, his eyes never leaving mine for a second, nor even a blink. He moves his tongue around inside his mouth to clean the food from his teeth, swallows, then pushes his chair back and picks up his bowl with the fork balanced inside. He slides the comic out from under my palm, picks it up too, and then turns and walks off with both towards the sitting room off the kitchen. A total non-reaction to me that normally would get something, maybe sarcasm or an argument. And he disappears from view. Just a blank look, a nothing interaction, and he leaves me sitting here like I am some crazy banshee ex who won't leave him alone. He swaggers off with that cool boy walk and don't care attitude. That makes me want to scream. It wounds me as much as my dad ignoring my calls and makes me feel worthless, clenching up my insides, so my chest aches and my throat constricts like he's strangling me. My heart is accelerating like I've run a marathon and pounds so hard it feels like it might explode from my chest. I hate you sometimes. My voice croaks and breaks at how he is abandoning me, and despite not even wanting his stupid company, it feels like he stabbed me in the chest. I loathe how, even though Dane is the absolute bane of my existence, he has this weird power over me and can make me feel invisible without doing a damned thing. I always crave his reactions and attention, even while telling myself I wish he would stay away from me. I wait, tilting my head towards the door, and listen because I know he heard me. The cozy is close enough, and the house is silent, yet he doesn't bother to retaliate. There's the faint sound of him laying his plate on a table, the scrape of a chair, and then silence again. My eyes well up with moisture, and I swallow down the crazy, insane need in me to storm through there and throw my bowl at his head. I don't know why I am like this today, but maybe my father has me sensitive. Perhaps it's being made to feel like I don't matter by someone who is meant to care about me so that Dane's behavior, which isn't all that out of the ordinary, is way more hurtful. Getting under my skin. I just want someone to give a shit about me. For once. This stupid house sometimes feels so huge and so empty. I sometimes feel like I could disappear, and no one would notice. I can't believe there was a time, long ago, when I used to look forward to Dane coming here, thinking we would get through this together, that my loneliness wouldn't run as deep if someone was going through the same as me and could be here to lean on. Back then, I was happy that of all the kids in school that I was forced to be siblings with, it was Dane. I can't believe I was ever stupid enough to think that just because we were friends when we were little, we would be something closer as siblings as we grew, that my fondness for him back then would become the toxic mess it is now, that I mistook our closeness as something positive, only to have him end up hating me and my mother for what we did to his family, treating me like the enemy, and adding to my sense of loneliness and hopelessness growing up. I didn't gain a brother. I lost a friend, one that I used to wake up happy to go see at school every day. It's never stopped being a scar on my heart and left me asking myself over and over why it had to be him, of all people. I printed off the class notes for each of you. Take them home, work through them, and highlight anything you want to elaborate on tomorrow. I instruct my study group, sliding out the paper-clipped pages to each one, and Elisa slides half the pile from them to pass to the next table. We're in the library on the second floor, taking our class free period as a time to catch up on biology. This is how I use any free time I get during school hours. Unlike some I could mention, my entire existence is about doing well and getting the grades I need to go to Harvard when I graduate. So becoming our class president and the study group leader for our year feels like an achievement. These are well laid out and really helpful, Kayla. Thank you, Jordan. a boy from my class flashes a shy smile, giving me those puppy dog eyes he sometimes has for me. I know he's had a crush on me since junior year, but I don't have time for boys. As nice as he is, I don't need the distraction of dating. He is not unattractive. He's that typical rich, preppy boy bookworm type. Good bone structure, clean cut, sandy hair, blue eyes, tall and lean with glasses, and a neat cut back and sides. He reminds me of Clark Kent in a way. Guys! A rushed, hyper voice invades the quiet of the roomy library, breaking the near silence as a middle-year kid rushes in, knocking into a book stand by the door, and sending a few sliding to the floor. An angry librarian shushes him with a glare. But he waves his hands in the hair with excitement. There's a punch-up between two seniors in the main hall. They're going crazy. He whoops and turns on his heel to run out before he gets a demerit for ignoring the rules in here, and a dozen student chairs scrape across the floor as they shift ass to see. There's an instant buzz of excitement, and I roll my eyes glaring at the two from our group, who get up so that they slowly slide back down and look sheepishly at the rest of us. We have more important things to do than watch two idiots thump lumps out of each other. I raise a brow and go back to opening the pages in front of me, tutting at how many students have exited the room to go view something barbaric. Dane Masterson and Greg Kent from the seniors are beating the shit out of each other. A voice echoes our way loudly from a group being ushered out by an excited teen, and my whole body stiffens. It feels like the blood runs cold in my veins. My heart skips a beat, my breath falters, and I hesitate about getting up. My hands tremble instantly. This is not my problem. I shouldn't care. He told me to stay away from him a few days ago, which is fine. Let him get expelled for something as stupid as fighting. Let him get beaten to a pulp. Why should I have any sort of emotion about that? Chrissy, nothing to me. You're really not going to go look. Elisa nudges me, sensing my stiffness. My heart is hammering in my chest, and I shake my head. Unsure why suddenly my pulse is racing and my stomach is fluttering like I'm nervous. I don't get the internal reaction, so I swallow it and shake my head, pasting a fake smile to brush it off. Sorry, Kayla, but that's something I want to see. Greg was a jerk to me all these years, so seeing him get beaten up. Shy boy David slides up, and it seems the only encouragement some of them need as my group dissolves with a sudden up-and-run behavior. More than 6 of them follow suit and depart as quickly. It's your brother, right? Jordan eyes me up and looks from the door to me, trying to gauge my reaction from my blank expression. He seems torn about following them, but knowing he likes me probably is the reason he's still sitting here. My hands start getting clammy, and I mentally scold myself to sit here and let it go. Impulses jumping inside my body and brain to move my legs and go with them are being pushed down hard. I don't even know why my instincts are trying to get me out of this chair. I don't care if he gets punched to a pulp. By marriage, he's an idiot who can handle it by himself. I dismiss casually, but my voice tremors, and Elisa narrows her gaze on my face. There's a giant smashing, crashing noise that reverberates so loudly that it echoes in here and gives half the staff a jumping fright. I feel like my stomach lurches into my chest. Without thought, pure instinct taking over, I'm up on my feet and running out to the hallway before I can stop myself. Sliding to the railing of the glass banister with an urgency that overhangs the hallway below. I have to push between 2 girls to get in to see, shoving and wriggling into the crowded space and almost fighting to get my head over. I am crammed in with bodies and almost take an elbow to the face. Below on the white marble floor in the school's main foyer, crowds are moving around 2 figures tied up in each other's limbs as they fight it out wrestle style. Kids are egging them on and chanting, but the boys are oblivious and zoned in on each other. Dane seems to have the upper hand, throwing the other boy down and then dragging him up by the collar from the floor before punching him square in the face. Greg reels back into the remaining marble pillar that acts as a flower stand by the entrance, and it, too, comes down with a violent crashing. The other is already on its side, the top detached and broken, and the huge glass vase, which held a display of expensive large flowers, is in 1,000 pieces. That must have been the crashing noise, leaving water, shards, and fauna all over the right side of the hallway. There's a second echoing smash, as this one suffers the same fate, and a few around me cover their ears in the chaos. "Stop it! Stop it!" A girl appears and starts frantically hauling at the back of Dane's blazer, clinging onto him and getting nowhere as he drags Greg up again. Blood is smeared across the boy's face from what might be a broken nose, and he already has darkening eyes from bruising. "Dane, you're killing him." She's sobbing, desperate with her pleas, and I recognize her as Renee Walter, the girlfriend of Greg. Apparently, Dane has been sleeping with her for a month. Greg just found out. The girl beside me whispers to her friend, snorting their disgust, and both lean over the rail as the crowd moves again. The two boys and half the spectators disappear under the balcony we're overhanging on, and all up here lean over further to see. My heart stops mid-beat, a moment of sheer anger mixed with a spiking bump into my stomach at their words. A sickening feeling comes up to strangle me that I can't explain, and I'm dazed and unfocused for a second. I mentally cast my mind back to that night on the drive and wonder if it was Renee who picked him up. Although I didn't get a good look at her, it could have been, and I wouldn't put it past him to have sex with someone who had a boyfriend. He doesn't care who he hurts or what mess he causes in people's lives. He's disgusting. Renee and Greg are final year seniors, graduating this year, a class above us. She has been dating Greg for her entire high school life, and everyone knows they are set to get married after college. The fact she would do something like that abhors me, and I push away from my spot, getting annoyed with no longer being able to see what's happening. I slide back and push past Elisa in haste, who's hanging back, heading for the end of the walkway and down the huge stairway to get onto the same level as them. I'm a mix of anxiety, anger at him for being this thug, and a shred of concern that Dane might actually get seriously hurt. The thought surprises me. But I guess he's been my brother for 10 years, and I wouldn't be human if there weren't an ounce of care. I'm not as self-centered as him. It takes seconds to get down beside them, and I force my way through the nearest wall of students caging them in, seeing teachers starting to spew out of nearby doorways, and know this will be broken up soon. Dane getting in trouble for this will make my mom go nuclear. "Dane, please, I beg you." Renee is hauling at Dane, but it's not keeping him off the now floored. Again Greg, he looks done. His face is a mess, his clothes disheveled, and there is blood all over his face, neck, and collar. Dane isn't much better. Although his nose has way less blood, it looks like his eyebrow piercing has taken a direct hit, and his lip ring is gone, leaving what might be a split. "Stop it!" That impulsive part of me that sometimes takes control against all my logic has me diving into the center of the clearing and pushing myself up in Dane's face. I snap at him, knowing I'm only overpowering him because Renee is still hauling from behind, and it's a combined effort. Dane is panting with exertion, his clothes pulled up and messy too, and he seems to sag a little as his eyes rest on me. He looks exhausted, and there's a sheen of sweat across his forehead under messy bangs. His stiffness from standing ready to take another swipe loosens, and he exhales right in my face. I get the vibe he's close to sitting down as he's as spent as Greg. And I wonder how long they were doing this. What did I tell you about butting out? His words are splintered and raspy, his gaze locking on mine with ferocity, and before I get a chance to scold him some more, his eyes widen and he moves so fast my head spins. Somehow I go from facing Dane, hands on his clammy pecs while holding him back, to being enveloped in his arms. Turns so speedily that I get dizzy, and I am crushed to him in a vice-like grip of being shielded. Something hits him in the back with a force that reverberates through his body to me. and he slumps over me a little as he takes the full impact, squeezing me tighter. My head is pushed under his chin, and my arms are crushed tight between us, so I can't move or breathe. "I will fucking kill you," he growls over my head, turning his face back in the direction Greg is in, and I realize I have been pulled in a complete arc to get here. Dane is surrounding me with his body, and I am suddenly in a weird shadow of protection, as his jacket conceals half my face with how he grabbed and pulled me in. "That's enough. Break it up. Break it up, Mr. Swanson." The head teacher's voice booms across us all, yet Dane doesn't release his grip on me. Looking down, his eyes scour over me, and he seems oblivious to the new swarm of staff who have appeared to drag them all out. He's in so much trouble for this. "You two are coming with me. I am calling your parents. Did it hit you?" Dane's voice drops in volume, so it's for my ears only, and I have no idea what he's talking about. "Did what hit me?" I shove myself out of his arms, realizing how weird and gross it is to be cuddled up to Dane. My heart is beating a rumba from the fright he gave me in grabbing me this way, and my senses are overwhelmed with his mix of aftershave and sweat. His clammy touch or muscular body pressed into my every curve. It's left me feeling weird and antsy, like a rippling, crawling sensation running over my skin. I'm suddenly lightheaded. A piece of broken marble about the size of a tennis ball is right by Dane's foot in my line of vision, and it dawns on me he just protected me. Greg must have thrown it at him. That would have smacked him in the spine. I don't know how to absorb that. I would have taken it in the back of the head. No. I don't think so. Are you okay? It's out before I realize how weird I sound. Soft and genuine. Like I might actually mean it. I snap my mouth closed and step away from him, shocked at my own response. "Move." Dane is grabbed by the scruff of his collar by the head and pulled away from me. My eyes dance over the mess of his face, the slight bruise shade appearing along his jawline. Churning up my stomach, I seriously think about following him to ensure they take him to the medical room. "Oh my God, are you okay?" Elisa's voice pulls me backward, with a dainty hand tugging my wrist. Dazed. I come to, and she's beside me, so I instantly suffer from confusion. I glance from her to Dane being hauled off as school kids part and disperse, and I hesitate. I should go too. Make sure he's okay and wait for his dad to come. My mom will go crazy over this. I don't need a babysitter. Go back to class. Dane sits opposite me in the waiting space outside the principal's office. He's stretched out legs across the floor between us and lounging casually with his head back against the wall behind, as though this is no big deal. He is infuriatingly cool despite his mess of a face and his dad being in there trying to save his ass. The school nurse has seen him, and it's nothing but minor cuts and bruises, which now sport some sterile strips. What I thought was a burst-out piercing was instead a little cut after it broke out. His eyebrow is swelling, but his piercing is still there. I can't believe I worried about this moron and waited with a nervous breath for him to come out and look absolutely fine. He has some bruising around his jaw and eye, but it's barely anything compared to the mess Greg was in when he left. He had blood all over his collar and shirt. Dane's bloody nose was gone after he blew it. "Your dad asked me to sit here while he talks this out in case you need medical attention. He's worried you have a concussion or some hidden injuries. Do you know how close you are to being suspended?" I eye roll and then raise a haughty brow at him before returning to flicking through my biology textbook that I'm making notes in, trying my hardest to blank him out. "You know that won't happen. He'll do what he always does. Flash cash, promise donations, and perks, and I'll get a week of detention." He exhales heavily, sliding further down in his seat, so his feet cage either side of mine in the small space, and I pull my knees together to avoid tutting at him for invading my space. He's rumpled as usual and slouching. He sounds annoyed that his dad has become so proficient in clearing up his son's bullshit that this has become a nothing scenario. I wish, for once, he would tuck in his shirt, button it up properly, and tighten his tie so it didn't sit in the middle of his chest. He's so scruffy in a boy band. Idle kind of way. His wrists are littered with leather bands, skateboard-esque bracelets, and a chunky watch he wears on his right. You're lucky it was him. They called and not my mom, or this would be going a whole different way. She wouldn't get you out of anything and make you take whatever punishment was owed. What is wrong with you? Sitting with him gets on my nerves when I feel more uptight about what's going on in there than he is. Nothing is wrong with me. Greg attacked me. I merely defended myself. He closes his eyes as though to zone me out, and I grit my teeth, scowling and narrowing my eyes at him. My temper riled at his nonchalance. You were sleeping with his fiancée. I think it's understandable that he might want to beat your ass. He should have done a better job of it then, shouldn't he? Maybe then I would be the one in the ER getting my head stitched and not sitting here listening to you. He blows out more air, shifts in his seat, and buries his hands in his blazer jacket pockets, still not opening his eyes. His whole aura is saying, "Go away and leave me be." But like it or not, I've been appointed watchdog. His dad doesn't trust him to sit here alone. You have no regrets about what you've done, destroying their relationship, getting into a fight in school and trashing the foyer. My tone gets sharp, that inner swirling chaos he always triggers in me, making me tense all over and have the urge to pound his head into the smooth surface behind him. I don't know why he always makes me feel this way. He's despicable. Dane sighs, as though I'm an irritation in his day, and sits bolt upright, pulling his feet back and perches forward to stare me right in the eye. Seemingly deciding that taking me head-on will be the fastest way to shut me up. Why should I? Was I dating Greg? Not my relationship to destroy. I owed him no loyalty, and I don't have a girlfriend or a fiancé. We were not even friends. If he can't satisfy his woman and she strays, that's on him. It would have been some other guy if it wasn't me. Renee's the one you should be lecturing. Little Miss Moral High Ground. I didn't start the fight, and I didn't trash the foyer alone, but carry on like always, blaming me for everything. You're so like your mom. It's never anything on you, right? It's always everyone else and because of other people. I snort in disgust, hearing only his refusal to accept blame for this, despising him more for the grossness of what this is all about. Cheating, hurting people. He has no soul. That's not what I said. As usual, you only hear what you want to hear. He sighs, tilts his head back, and stares again at the ceiling. He sneers and sits back, seemingly irritated with me as much as I am at him, and we both fall into silence before a distant ringing distracts his attention. He tilts to the side, to listen to the receptionist, taking a call in the other room. My phone buzzes in my pocket, and I lean sideways to haul it out from my lower pocket, my heart beating a little harder with hope as I fish it out. My stomach somersaults with a flash of excitement that finally my dad has texted me back. I know he's been working hard and busy. I have been waiting to hear back from him for a few days about spending the break with him in New York. I swipe my screen, and my mood dissipates again, like the sinking of a rock in a pond as Elisa's name appears at the top of my inbox. I try and hold my expression blank, but pain swells in my chest. I have taken class notes for you. Hope everything is okay. XXX. I stare at it for a second, gripping my emotions internally to calm them and slow my rapid heartbeat, and then scroll down to my last texts to my dad. Unread, unresponded to, and it's been almost 48 hours since he read my last one, which too had no reply. My stomach sinks, pushing it out of my head because I don't want to blame him or be hurt by this, and I slowly switch off the screen and slide it away. Breathing slowly and carefully to curb the instinct to cry. What's gotten you looking so tragic? Dane's voice pulls me back to him to see he's now staring my way, not the ceiling tiles. I breathe out with heavy irritation. Nothing, I reply blankly. None of your business. Boy, you like rejecting you. He smirks, and I have the urge to kick him. Realize that would be a life of torture. I have more sense than to chase after a boy. No one in this school is worthy of that attention. Unlike you, I am not interested in dating anyone. I snap at him, aiming my venom at him directly. You know, I have a theory that maybe if you got laid, you wouldn't be such a cranky bitch all the time. You might learn how to smile. He winks, slides his hands behind his head, and stretches out again so his feet are back at mine. I know he's trying to goad me, so I bite my lip to curb a reaction. Maybe if you got laid less, you wouldn't be such an arrogant walking creep. I snort, but the little gleam and widening smirk tell me he heard me. He's a sicko who loves our bickering when insults get thrown. Daddy's still ignoring you. He slides his legs to one side of mine, crosses his feet at the ankles, and gets comfy, propping his head forward to watch me with glee. I turn slightly away, cross mine, and pretend I am disinterested. Get lost. I pick up my textbook again to try and ignore him, hating how he always seems to be able to dig into my head and figure out the small things. From a look, for someone who seems oblivious in life, he always catches on real quick to what's happening around us. It's annoying. He's either super observant or can mind read. Did I hit a nerve? Ouch, you know. He grins at me, and I know something hurtful or cutting is coming. And when it comes to my father, my heart is a fragile mess. Don't, okay. Just don't. My tone is clipped with an edge of pleading that I didn't intend. A light wavered to my words and my eyes mist over. I don't need a big finger pointing at my insecurity over whether my dad even loves me. Especially not from Dane. I don't need anyone to tell me that he never seems to care about what is happening with me. He rarely calls. I see him once a year at most, and I feel like I am the one who forever chases him even to get any interaction. I know better than anyone that I became something irrelevant to his new life from the second they divorced. I wait for the nasty shooting words I know Dane will wield as a weapon and lower my eyes to the blurry text in my book because my eyes won't focus. There's a silent pause as I brace myself for whatever is coming, steeling myself not to react and show him he has something he can twist. It's his loss, Kayla. Fuck him. Stop chasing him. He doesn't deserve your attention. In time, you'll stop caring as much. Not what I expected, and I flicker a glance up at him, frowning as I try to find the malice in it. Knowing that could not have been a form of nice veiled-in attitude from the great Dane Masterson. He catches my dubious look, shrugs at me, and returns to leaning his head back with a sigh. Just because you love him doesn't mean you have to excuse his neglect or take his bullshit. He closes his eyes, back to that casual slouch, as though the world doesn't faze him. His tone is less smug and hints at bitterness, and I wonder if he is projecting his skewed view of his own dad. It's not even remotely the same thing. But in Dane's head, who knows? How? My heart is bleeding a little because his words cut to the bone, yet I'm interrupted by his cell blasting into tune as someone calls him and breaks off my sentence. Not a shock to hear his ringtone as some rock band screaming like banshees. Dane shifts and hauls it out of his jacket, opening one eye to check the screen and uhs loudly before cursing under his breath. He blows out air and rotates his shoulder as though readying for something physical before straightening up. He gets up, presses the screen, and pushes it to his ear before walking off towards the hallway to take it alone. Hello, Mom. Guess you got a call, right? He adopts a very mannerly and precise tone. The only person in the world he shows love and respect to is his mom, and it makes me bristle, and my spine tightens that he is capable yet doesn't give a shit about anyone else. If she knew half the things he got up to, she would go crazy and haul him to London. But his father tells her nothing, so desperate to keep his loser son with him. I bet the office called her from his contacts list. His voice fades off as he opens the glass divider door and puts himself on the other side, so I hear nothing more. I turn my attention to my book and side-eye my cell, which is sitting on the chair beside me, my heart sinking again. As I think about what Dane said, we have never spoken about my dad. He must have picked up on the problems with my dad on his own, and I wonder if he has overheard my mom or me and Elisa talking about it. God knows I would never speak to Dane about anything in my life, and the only time we have any kind of conversation is when we argue. I hate that he's such a no, it all while being an absolute loser. Kayla, thanks for waiting. Brian appears on my right as the principal's door finally opens, and I stand to meet him, smiling brightly and pushing all other thoughts aside. Did he get expelled? He's on the phone with his mom. I add in haste as I see his eyes scanning the empty room with alarm. I nod towards the hall, and he visibly relaxes. There's a slight eye twitch at knowing Dane's mom has called, and I can tell he will call her back and smooth whatever over that he has to before she flips out. This is half the reason Dane is such a rebellious asshole who does what he wants. The one parent he cares about disappointing gets lied to and kept in the dark by his own father. He has become 100 times worse in what he does since she moved to the UK. No, but he does have 2 days home to recover from his injuries and some time to reflect. I hate to do this, but he shouldn't drive his bike. I'll have it picked up. Can you take him home and stay with him this afternoon until I can finish some things? I think he needs someone to watch him. School agreed. I start to protest indignantly, but Brian's warm arm comes to rest and cups my shoulder, and his pleading eyes root me to the spot and silence. His sweet and friendly paternal energy oozing over me. Please, I know he's a lot and you too, but he took a lot of knocks to the head and school won't let him stay today. I would feel 100 times better knowing you were home with him. I trust you. He knows how to harpoon me in the heart and cull me with one stroke. Even though our live-in housekeeper is home, Monique works hard, and being a babysitter is not her job. Fine. But I'm not running after him. He's fine. He can. I'm ready to lay down the ground rules, but Dane's voice cuts in, signaling his return. He sounds as happy about this as I am. Leaving her at home with me is a surefire way to make me suffer. Is this my punishment? Cozy home time being bossed around by the Virgin? Hey! I turn and slap him in the upper arm for saying that in front of his dad, and Brian is quick to retort too. Watch your mouth, young man. Kayla is your sister and is very much a part of our family. Show her some respect at least. She's taking you home because she cares. That is not entirely true though. I say nothing and press my lips together. Whatever. I'm bored. Come on, Mosquito. If I have to suffer you, then let's make it not here. I'm hungry and tired. Dane tugs my ponytail, so I step back with a head dip at the pressure and slap him for the second time in retaliation. This time getting his peck because he has moved. It makes my fingers sting, and I glare at him. Keep your hands off me, I warn with edginess. I bet you say that to all the boys, he winks, smirking and dodging the one I aim at his head with a chuckle as his dad stares at him, with a show of mild anger. Dane loves nothing more than making me hate him. Have a little class, son, he sighs, and then motions for us to go ahead as he picks up Dane's discarded bag from the seat where he had been sitting. Come on, loser. I snort at Dane under my breath, so Brian doesn't quite catch it. I take the bag from Brian and thump it into Dane's chest aggressively, so he automatically grabs it before waltzing past him with my nose in the air and sway to my bitch walk. Commanding the way and done with being here. The sooner we are home, the sooner I can get away from him. Dad, Mom says to call her ASAP. She wants to know what's happening. Dane shrugs it off, and I know that means he got her off the phone pronto with probably an excuse about being in the school office. He's so transparent about hiding things from his mom. He knows his dad will come up with some plausible untruth, so he never has to lie to her directly. I am so not going to let him get to me. I have work I could be doing before I head to the animal shelter tonight for my shift. The lack of class this afternoon gives me time to add extra words to an essay I have to hand in tomorrow to utilize this time wisely. It is a win-win, and the cherry on top is that this pig-headed thug is in pain and suffering from the beating he took. It feels like it might be a nice afternoon. A rap disrupts my focus on my bedroom door before it's rudely pushed open, and Dane stands in the open space looking at me at my desk by the veranda. Monique says to come down for food. You aren't to eat in your room. He tells me blankly and then pushes off from my doorframe to walk off, not waiting for a response or to see if I even heard him. I get up, drop my pen beside my notebook and laptop, and follow him out the door. Glad for the food break as I was starting to see double while working on my essay, seeing him loitering ahead of me in the hallways as he walks at the speed of a snail back to wherever he came from. I hurry to catch up. Move, slow ass! I nudge him to one side with my shoulder, barely budging him as I power march up beside him to get by. Seeing as he's taking up the center of the walkway, thrusting myself forward to cut in front of him, yet I am hauled mid-step with a hand on my upper arm and tugged back again, so I stumble into him. Losers come last, he smirks, pushing me backward with a palm to my forehead, so I am sent reeling behind him, and he takes off into a jog to get down before me. The competitive streak in me riles up, and impulsive anger takes over that has me righting myself and breaking into a run after him. He's always been a fast sprinter, but he's not putting effort into it, and although he spans the upstairs hall in a minute, I am speedy on his heels and catch him by the hoodie he is wearing. I yank it with all my might, stopping my run that has him break mid-stride and tumble back at me before shoving him sideways into the nearest open door and running like a bat out of hell. He falls into the open space but quickly recovers. Oh hell no, mosquito. He's faster with reflexes than me, and I can't help but squeal in terror as I am physically grabbed from behind. Sweeping me off my feet, two strong arms wrap me around the waist, and he swings me into mid-air so my heels end up at my eye level. I instinctively grab his arms and cling on. Girl squealing my protest. Don't think so. Short stuff. I won't lose to you. He laughs in my ear where his face is against mine, pressing our cheeks together warmly before dropping me with a thud onto my ass in a sitting position. He jumps over me, missing me by inches, and starts scaling the staircase, taking 2 steps at a time. Asshole. That's not fair and you know it. I yell after him, indignation as strong as I pull myself off the floor and have to put in twice the effort to compete. I will not let this boy get the better of me. Adrenaline is pumping through me now, and I excitedly take off after him. He has long legs, and the stairs are an easy feat, but I am not about to take this lying down. I jump onto our polished banister, like a deranged monkey, seeing as I switch to my satin lounger pants when I got home and slide down the curved wood to catch up with him. It's faster than I expected due to its high-gloss finish, and I can't really grip it or I'll slow down, curled over, sliding backward. I meet the last set of steps at high velocity as he does and tumbles sideways, as the rail curves inwards and is no longer straight. My grip is awful, and I am catapulted, losing a sense of time and space. I come flying off at speed, shooting at him like a torpedo, knowing this was such a bad idea that it might get me killed. Gravity is not my friend, and my stomach lifts in my body as I am temporarily weightless in the air. I take Dane down in a flying hurdle. I don't intend. Instead, I am just looking for a soft landing spot to save me from ultimate permanent disfigurement. His arms, face, and torso meet my body side-on, and we become a splat, impacted, entangled mess of limbs and grunts as we topple the last small set of 5 steps into a rolling ball. We crash across the marble floor, somehow ending up wrapped together in the fetal position with me on top, and hit a sliding stop against the nearest pillar. Taria's an uncrumpling as we both roll out. The deadweight collapse of body parts, side by side, and lay like half-dead animals, panting and groaning as all the aches and pain hit me from the human collision. "You're a psycho." Dane laughs at me, only not with malice, but he seems impressed I braved the railing and almost ended myself just to beat him. His boyish, genuine chuckle I hear when he's hanging out with Tyler at lunch. Weird boys are easily awed by crazy girls risking life for a win. For a moment, I forget how much I dislike him as his smile is infectious and has hints of his dad's. And I laugh and aim a sucker punch at him with a weak arm. "You're a cheat." He catches my closed fist and tugs me closer before poking me in the face with a pointer finger and flicking me in the head. Only in games, not in relationships. He turns his head to me, seeing as we're both lying sprawled out a foot apart, limbs still half entangled, and we look one another directly in the eye.